Hey guys, I'm here with my client Lewis. We worked together about a year and a half ago now, I think. It was like I want to say like March to May 2022 maybe.
Mhm.
But we just wanted to back together to have a conversation about the work that we did together, ask him about where he was before the main character event program, what it was like working together, and then how things have been since then. So what's good, man?
Hey, what's up, Christian? Yeah. So so yeah, I ever since ever since we started, working together, I've it's a lot of things have happened actually. It's it's a lot of progress has been happening. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of good things have happened.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know because like we've caught up a few times since then, but why don't we start with where you were at the very beginning before we did any work together, like what your history gaming is and how essentially you got to that point in the story, if you want to run us through that.
Yeah, so uh before talking to Christian, I was playing a lot of video games pretty much every day. I wasn't like working on myself at all. Like I wasn't, I dropped out of college, because I was getting bad grades and didn't really finish like an education. So, um, I wasn't working on myself at all. I wasn't working out. Um, and I was pretty unhappy. Like, I just didn't understand like what was going on in my life. I felt like, there was other people out there that were like, a lot happier than me, and they were, making more money than me. And I was just like, you know, I felt like I just lacked a lot of knowledge, um, that I was supposed to have. So, um, kind of when I started speaking to you, I started to like notice things that basically like my awareness was like very it was very small, and um it started to expand, I started becoming more aware to different things that I wasn't aware of before, and it just started to like become like a snowball effect where I just was, where I was learning. I wanted to learn all these new things. Now, one thing I've learned um, is, you know, when you're learning all this new stuff, it's important to, um, how do I say, so sometimes like I'll have like, I guess what's called like analysis paralysis, where
Yeah.
I'll learn something so much, and then when I actually go to put it into like effect, like I actually like s- I want to actually use it in my daily life. Sometimes like I get like in my head about stuff like, and I start thinking about what I'm going to say next. And one thing I've learned is just to just go based off of my instinct and just allow the training that I have to, I will know the right words to say at the right moment, and not, it shouldn't be having to think about what I'm going to say next. And since I work in sales, it's very important, is to be um not sound like scripted, or not sound
Yeah.
um I'm thinking about like what I'm going to say next, and those are like super important things. But you know, I've when I first started working with you, I like now, my wife's pregnant, because I before I wasn't like really too happy with my life. So I started like, writing down things that I wanted. I started writing down goals, how I was going to achieve those goals. You know, I started to like basically design my life the way that I wanted it to be. And I realized that I have the power to do that. It's all on me. It's not like, you know, like I have full control of my life. So it's
Yeah.
just knowing the direction of where you want it to go, what you want in life, you know. Um, and I feel like a lot of people are they just let life happen to them, you know. They're not, you know, they're not designing their life. So, um, I started playing golf. My wife and I are gonna have a child. Um, you know, I'm making more money in my business. Um, been trying to work out, you know, get up early, you know, start doing the right thing, you know, not use drugs or tobacco or, you know, um, I just with video games, pretty much what's happened is through all the, you know, now that I'm actually like hanging around people that are like not playing video games and doing what they're supposed to do in life, um, I see that all the time that I was playing games, it was hurting like my masculinity, my intelligence, uh, you know, because when you start coming around people that weren't doing that for all that time, you could see the difference. Like when you compare yourself to them, you know, you could see, you know, these people weren't like messing around when you were like messing around, like wasting your time.
Yeah.
They were putting in the work, you know, and the results are there. So that's mainly what I've learned from your program is, you know, you got to work on yourself. You gotta learn, you gotta, you know, and especially me, like I during like my development, like you know, in my teenage years where I was supposed to be learning this stuff, I was not going to school. I was, you know, getting high, smoking weed, you know. So while my awareness to the world was supposed to be like basically while my awareness was developing, I was, you know, getting high
Right.
and you know, so my view of the world got like distorted
Mm,
because I wasn't getting an education when I was supposed to be getting an education.
yeah.
So now as a 31-year-old man, you know, it's this is, you know, I'm learning stuff that I should have learned when I was younger.
Right.
And if I would have learned that stuff when I was younger and I would have just listened to my father, uh,
Mm,
you know, things would have been different now. I wouldn't have had to
yeah,
struggle so much in life, right?
for sure.
So
Well, let's talk about that and how like video games fit into the backstory as well too. Because and we haven't mentioned it yet, but we actually go way back. Like we both used to play really hardcore MMORPGs, and you were actually the one who kind of showed me World of Warcraft like way back in the day, which became like my main game. And I know you played a lot of WoW, you played a lot of EVE Online, like games that were essentially like a second life or a second job. How did that like fit into your, I guess, your backstory of getting to the point where we started working together? And why do you think, you know, given that you said that you weren't too happy with your life, you felt like life was happening to you, why then, how did that like influence the reason, you know, how did that influence why you were playing video games in the first place? Like, how were they providing something for you back when things felt that way?
the thing is that like since I was one of the first generations to actually play video games, like when they came out, you know, because this is video games haven't been around for that long, you know. It came out what in the 90s, so maybe be a little bit before that, but they started really to get like immersive and
Right.
like highly addictive in the 90s and early 2000s. So back then, we didn't have any knowledge on the effects of video games. We didn't know, you know, what. what this is actually doing to us. Like even my father used to play with me, video games all day because he
Yeah.
thought it was a positive thing to bond with his child, and it was a positive thing, but it has like long-term effects that we weren't aware of at that time. So um as time progresses and as more research has been done, we've seen that playing video games is actually really bad for you. And because it hijacks like your reward, you know so now your reward system is all messed up. So instead of wanting to pursue your goals, like your actual real life goals, you'd rather play the game and achieve goals in a virtual world
Yeah.
that's not the real world. So it literally makes you into a loser, like in the real world. And um that's the problem. So if you want to be like a winner, you want to be
Yeah.
like someone in life, you don't want to be spending your time playing video games all day because it's that's not what we're meant to do as people. Like we're in order to be truly happy, you have to be getting exercise, you have to be getting sun, you have to be
Right.
eating the right foods, you have to be socializing with people.
Well, and I guess the big point too that you touched on is that it can be really difficult to have a like a burning fire to achieve more. And when we say achieve more, we don't just mean like, keep up with your job, like do the bare minimum, keep things kind of where they're at. We're talking like how do you create more wealth for your family, right? How do you design your life the way that you said that now you're starting to design it? It's how do you do that? How do you find the motivation and the consistency and the discipline to like do all that hard work if you're getting like such an easy form of that fulfillment and gratification and feeling like you're making progress because you're playing a video game all the time, especially one like an MMO, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So like what concerns or I don't know, like how did you feel when you came to the program that like made you want to like take up the work in the first place? Like what made you, I guess, sick and tired enough of how things had gone up until that point that you were willing to like take a chance on this? And what, if any, concerns or like worries did you have about, working together, how it was going to go?
Well, when we first started working together, I was pretty desperate for a change because in my workplace, I was pretty much getting bullied, by other guys, you know, and, you know, in the workplace, you can't really like go and punch somebody in the face, you know what I mean? You can't because then you get arrested. So the only thing you could do like in a sales environment is become better. And sometimes you're around like, people that are like super overachievers and you want to be like them. You want to make the money that they're making and stuff like that, and then you start comparing yourself to them and you start seeing like what type of habits they're doing and stuff that they're doing, and then you look at what you're doing and you're like, fuck, like I you there has to be more that I can do,
Right.
and um I guess it's just going through that pain every day of going to work and not being the best because I feel like I am the best, because the way I was brought up, the way my father used to speak to me, I always felt that I was the best, and at what I do, and I'm the best at everything. And when I was challenged by someone and that person beat me, because they're smarter than me and they
Yeah.
work harder than me, and I I don't like that. I feel like I could do more,
Yeah.
and so when I started working with you, I um I started to like learn that it's because of the video games that's where my life is at right now. Like I'm literally in this position because all I've been doing all my life is fucking doing drugs and playing video games. So that's why I'm here.
Right.
So if I want to change my life, I got to do something different. I can't
Yeah.
keep doing the same shit and expecting the same results. Like I got to actually change it up. I got to change up my routine.
Hmm.
And I started learning about like hormones in your brain and like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin,
Yeah.
and how to boost those things. And when you play video games, it like drains those hormones. It doesn't, uh, it doesn't boost those hormones. Like, I mean, maybe, video games might be good, like to like, if you had a stressful day or something, you want to like de-stress or something like that. But I think the more I would play, the more depressed I'd get
Mm.
because y- you're not doing the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Um, because your mind and your body crave certain things, like social interaction,
Which you get from the
sunlight.
games too, which, makes them, that's another appeal, right? Is you have as that sense of community, like you have people that you're playing with that, you're leveling
But
up with
it's
and
it's
stuff.
not it's not it's not real though. So
Right.
that's the thing. It's like for you to really like socially interact with someone, I feel it has to be face to face. Like if you want to like have like the release of like oxytocin, serotonin, all that stuff, it's you get that from face to face interactions
Or
and like we're like as humans, we crave to be part of like a hierarchy. Like so how are you gonna like become part of a hierarchy like online? It doesn't work,
right.
you
Well,
know?
that it's what a lot of us do, like to feel that when we're not getting it in our real lives. You know what I mean? Like, especially like you said, you felt like you were being bullied at the workplace. And so, and this is like, because you brought up a ton of really good points. This kind of ties into, when you said as well that fortunately you had a confidence from your upbringing that I think a lot of people don't have, which was like the little spark that we kind of just needed to like, grow and fan and show you how to like channel that. But I remember that we would talk about we were trying to get to the bottom of like why you were gaming in the first place. And part of it was feeling that competitive like satisfaction and feeling like you were like one of the best because you weren't getting it in your real life.
Right.
Remember? And then
Yeah.
also, we talk about, you were just talking about the need to feel like you're in a hierarchy, especially as a dude, where like you're accomplishing things, you have like a tribe of other dudes that like you're winning with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it just makes total sense that the two kind of connect the dots there. Like I remember, when I would play WoW, I would feel like somebody, you know what I mean? I would feel like I was in a hierarchy. I was like an elite raider in my guild. I was parsing like high, I took pride in that. That gave me a sense of identity, that gave me a sense of being, in a tribe of winners. And it kind of just like fed the cycle a lot more too. So it's interesting seeing you talk about that as well. And then you said something really interesting when you said that like because a lot of people comment on my content talking about how they play video games to like de-stress and unwind. But you said that the more that you felt like the more that you played, the more depressed that you got. Can you explain that? Because that's kind of like counter to what most people think.
Yeah, like because now that I have like all this knowledge about like what the game is doing to me, like if I do play it for like prolonged amount of time, um, it doesn't feel good because like I know that I'm supposed to be doing something else, with this time, like the only time it feels good is if it's a reward. So if it's if I'm rewarding myself because I just did like hard work and I achieved something, like I actually achieved something in my life, then I can reward myself. But and there's different types of rewards out there, there's all
Right.
types of rewards. You can have a nice meal, you can you can play a game, you can smoke a cigar, whatever it is, things those are rewards, but the problem is that we're constantly rewarding ourselves 24/7 and we're not achieving anything. So it's you can't be rewarding yourself like that all the time, because then you're just going to be doing that all the time, rewarding
Hmm.
yourself, and then because it feels good, and then you're not going to want to like feel any pain. You're just going to avoid pain and just
Yeah.
always be wanting pleasure. And that's when you get depressed, because your body feels best when you're suffering. Like when you actually suffer for something, you go through pain, that makes you feel good. Even though it doesn't sound like pain makes you feel good, but it
Yeah.
does. It like hard work, like anything that's difficult to do, that actually like even like I don't mean like a difficult game. Like a difficult game is not going to make you feel good.
Right.
It only makes you feel good after you worked hard at something, like that you actually achieve something in your life. Now you can reward yourself with a little bit of something, but you have to be mindful of that, that if you're going to reward yourself with something, that you got to get back to work after that,
Yeah.
after you rewarded yourself. And you should only reward yourself if you really achieve something like great, like something, that you actually achieved it, and now you can reward yourself. But it's just,
Hmm.
it's if that's why games is so addictive, because you could just stay there the whole day playing, rewarding yourself, and then forget about work, and
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 no
now
suffering, no pain.
and no suffering, no pain. So
Yeah.
then, like, as a man, you have to suffer, you have to go through pain, you have to like pain to be able to be a man. Like if you're just always like in
Yeah.
pleasure mode, like, oh, feeling good all the time, it hurts your masculinity, and you become a little bitch. That's what happens.
I
Seriously.
want to
Like,
I want to unpack that too because this might be the biggest point that you make in the call, but and a lot of people I think are going to misunderstand it at first. So like when we say that you need suffering, you need pain, it's not necessarily to say that like you become a masochist and you constantly seek out like a miserable life because that's kind of opposite the point. But what you're kind of getting at is when you have something to strive against, right, and to challenge yourself with and to overcome, like you need that. Like if you had everything that you wanted by snapping your fingers, it's why a lot of people who are born into money and stuff are so depressed because they have nothing to do. They have no one to become. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And you talked about too, like when you reward yourself 24/7 and you're in pain avoidance all the time, and you're not actually working hard. A lot of people say in my comments like I'm just unwinding, I am rewarding myself, whatever. But what's your perspective on how honest or not people are with like whether or not they actually quote deserve a reward? Because I feel like, at least from what I see, like the idea of rewarding yourself is good, but a lot of people severely like they give it to themselves very quickly. You know what I mean? They severely underestimate like whether or not they're actually taking enough action to like move their life forward. And they say that they're rewarding themselves, but really they're kind of just like watching the clock tick down until the end of the day comes and they're like, okay, I can reward myself and play video games, but they didn't actually do anything. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different people out there, and some um it's I feel like a lot of the stuff that um that we learn, like the like the stuff that like business people go through and like salespeople have to learn, is different from like an employee that gets paid a salary. I feel that, like, as if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to work for yourself, you want to be a boss one day, there's certain things that you're going to have to do,
Right.
because you're going to have to work harder than everybody else, and you're going to have to know more than everybody else. That's what being a boss means.
Right.
So if you want to just work for someone and be happy with that, that's fine. Just know that you'll never be rich. You know, life isn't, um, life isn't set up for you to be rich. They want you to be a worker, So, um, if if you can free yourself of that and finally like become an entrepreneur
Mhm.
and become rich, then these are the things you have to do,
Right.
to in order to get there. But if you want to be like a worker and you don't care about being rich, you just want to make just enough money just to get by, hey, by all means, just go and video games all day and drink
Yeah.
and like that's
Distract yourself. I mean, it's to each their own, like you said, but if uh if you want more out of life, which is there's absolutely nothing wrong with, right? If you want to design your life like a game consciously and try to get the most out of it, then kind of like you said, 9 to 5 is one thing, but at some point you're going to have to take things into your own hands and learn skills that are higher leverage, right? Like sales, like marketing, stuff like that. And whether it's building a business or stepping into a role, kind of like your role, that is like a commission based thing that has more of like an uncapped incentive. And I think a lot of gamers are kind of missing that because they're like, I want a better financial situation in my real life, but they're in a vehicle that just by its very nature doesn't lend itself to like, putting more in and getting more out. You know what I mean? It's not like a video game because sales is like a video game, right? The more that you put in, the more commission you make, the more money you make. Like it's more inputs, more outputs. You know what I mean? But a
right.
lot of gamers don't have that because it's not what they're set up to do. And in order to step into that, they're gonna have to confront a lot of pain and like with greater risk greater reward type of thing, and also like you have to take more responsibility in order to make more money and to create a better life for yourself. So um yeah, that
Yeah,
makes total sense.
yeah, like um not everybody has to think like that, some people just uh you know get a degree or whatever, they get a good job at they become an employee at a good company and they have like a really nice salary and they get paid lots of money and they don't really have to think of this type of stuff, like um but still like it's still universal, like even for someone that's like playing like as a W-2 employee, like my father, he is a W-2 employee. He has a good salary, but he stopped playing video games because it was affecting his marriage
Mm-hmm.
and his social interactions with people. So,
Yeah, took over
and
his life like completely.
yeah, so he wasn't able to successfully play video games and then still have a life, like still have time for his wife, still have time for his children. It was consuming his whole life.
Yeah.
So even if you are a W-2 employee, where you're like, oh, I don't need to be thinking about work all the time, that's fine, great. But if you're playing video games, you're not going to have enough time for your family. You're not going to have enough time for your hobbies, right? So, like your passion, like you can't sit here and tell me, oh, my passion is playing video games. It's not, like you were meant to do more than that in your life. So, it's because when you play a game, it's like everybody can do that. It's not really like challenging. Like everybody can be
Yeah,
good at a video game. It's not hard. It's not hard. Like
sure.
we consider things that are valuable, things that are difficult, hard to
Yeah.
achieve. No one's
Right.
gonna respect you for playing a video game, bro.
Well,
Like,
and people are gonna kind of probably come back and be like, well, yeah, but I speed run and I'm a mythic raider or whatever. But it's more like I think what you're really getting at is it's still devoid of that adversity and that pain and that like overcoming something that's part of like accomplishing the truly gratifying things, rewarding things in real life, And at the end of the day, it's still you seeking something that you'd otherwise have to find for yourself in your real life and getting it in a video game, and it becomes a hamster wheel because you don't need to do anything else now. You get that like internal fulfillment just by gaming.
yeah,
So,
yeah, like it's you're just it's you're getting the fulfillment, um and it's whether you're a business person or not, you shouldn't be playing video games
It's not
because
just about the money, right?
yeah, it's
It's
not
about
even
being,
just a right.
yeah, it's about being
It's about
present
be
with your life.
exactly like, if and if you're not present, like, in your life, all these other problems start to come up because, like I said, you want people to respect you. You don't want to be like we crave that
Yeah,
hierarchical thing. You want to be um respected by your peers, and people only respect people when people respect courage. Like if you have courage to do things, they will respect you. And people respect, hard work, you know, people that's what people respect. So if you want to earn like people your the respect of your family, of your friends, you have to do hard things. You have to do things that nobody else is willing to do.
yeah. Well, and
And
that's so. Go ahead.
yeah, so like, you know, if you if you always say to yourself, "Oh yeah, I do this because everybody else does it," uh, you that's really bad.
Red
You
flag.
should always follow your personal goals and your own personal legend or whatever. And you shouldn't copy other people. Should not be doing what the masses are doing. You should
Sure.
be, you know, if people think that you're weird, that's good because that means you're not doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of
so
gamers can't deal with that. I mean, that just the following your heart and going for what you really want in life. And that's the thing is like a lot of gamers talk about how they feel like life has been unfair to them or cruel to them, and they just has wronged them, right? And they don't feel the same sense of freedom or control or agency in their lives. But I think what they don't realize is that a part of them secretly doesn't kind of want it, because with that freedom and that responsibility and truly like staying authentic to themselves comes the haters, comes people looking at you funny because you're going down the non-beaten path, right? um you said something like when you're talking about garnering respect, especially from your family. I think this is really important, especially if you're a husband, if you're a father, if you're going to be a father too, like, being able to show up for your family in the best way possible and be like the best leader, the best version of yourself. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Like, how were the games and how were like how was the way that things were like affecting that component of your life?
so basically, um, for men, you there's a thing called peak testosterone. So if you want to achieve um, peak testosterone is having a wife and having a child. That's peak testosterone. That's where you feel your best. Um, a lot of men, are like scared to go down that path, or they make up all these excuses and be like, "Oh yeah, I can't afford having a child, this and that." But like that's what's going to make you the happiest, that's where you feel fulfilled, and um I see a lot of guys that's not like my uncle. He's like 50 years old. He's never had a child. And he just doesn't settle down, and is he happy? Yeah, he's probably is a happy guy, but he probably, I'm sure that he feels like there's always something missing, in his life. And and then I look at people that are fathers and are raising their children and they look so confident, they look so happy, you know, and I feel like that's what you're supposed to do, in life is you learn and then you
Yeah.
go and you teach what you learn to your children and you raise your children, and that's really where you get put to the test. That's where the pressure's on, and as people, you don't find out who you really are until the pressure's on. When the pressure's on, and you're like in fight or flight, that's who you find out who you really are. Is that's why gangs like I don't really like gangs or stuff, but
Mhm.
they do some good things. Like when they have an initiation, when there's a gang initiation, you you have to fight with all the members of the gang. They all
Yeah,
beat you up, and the reason they do that is to to see if you're strong,
yeah,
and to see who you are under pressure, and then to see if that you're one of them. And in life, you know, that's what life is all about, is dealing with the pressure of life, and how good
yeah.
you could stay calm under pressure, and perform under pressure. Now, when you have children, now you have a lot more pressure, because you have to you have to be a good role model for your children, and your children don't understand words. They don't understand, like, you have to lead by example.
There you
So
go. That's the big
that's,
one.
yeah.
Like, because you're talking about. Well, I want to understand. So, a lot of people have this idea, it seems, that the guys who are most affected by video game addiction are like younger guys. And, you know, what I see it in support groups. I see it. I mean, we work together, right? A lot of the older guys, late 20s, early 30s and beyond, your dad was like, 40s too, are the ones who, like, I guess, under the pressure of being a husband, a father, being like a man, struggling against adversity, etc., they have a family and they're the ones who like escape the most. Why do you think that is? And like maybe you can talk about being like an older guy, gaming, being in like a committed relationship, having the pressure of work on, and then like how that fed into the gaming and what kind of conflict or like turmoil that created in your family life.
Well, we all have a craving to, like, entertain ourselves. Like, after we finish work, after you're done with work, you're craving some form of entertainment to get your mind off of work, right? So World of Warcraft is great for that, because you're immersed in this world, and you stop thinking about work. So that's mainly what people are looking for, is they're looking to disconnect from their stress of their daily life so they can have a good night's sleep. Now, but you have to be aware of, like, how much time you're putting into that. Like, there's a lot of, like, healthy alternatives, to video games, that are a form of entertainment, that don't, like, mess with all the chemicals in your brain. So, like, there's plenty of things, like, I don't know, like, sports is good. Sports is a good outlet. I see a lot of
Well,
successful people are into sports.
or just actually spending time with your family at the end of the day, right? Like actually just sitting down and hanging out and being present in those relationships, you know?
Yeah, yeah, like a lot of people that, like, use technology all the time, they're constantly in their head. So they're not, like, getting outside of their head. And the only way to get outside
Mhm.
of your head is by action. And more action, the better, because now you're not thinking about shit. You're in action mode. So
Yeah.
the more action you do, you know, th- like, the more time that you have away from technology, the better, the more social interactions you have. Don't be there scrolling through social media. Um, you just have to be aware of of the bad behaviors, and how it affects you. A lot of people don't understand how social media affects them. They don't understand how video games affects them, and the damage that they're doing, and they continue to do it, when you should be laughing, right? Laughing is an amazing uh tool,
Yeah.
that makes you feel better, and it releases endorphins, it releases all these chemicals. And a lot of people aren't really, like, laughing enough, it's, you
Mhm.
have to laugh, you have to smile, you have to. talk, have deep connections with people. And
Find and create the joy in your real life instead of seeking it somewhere else, by escaping, right?
yeah, and it's trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy to do that. Um, what's easy is just playing the game. That's easy, you know, but it's just it just messes up your hormones in your brain, and all it does is it just makes the company that's produces the game, it just makes them a shit ton of money.
Yo,
Because the more you play, the more money they make,
you're basically
so
pimped out by the gaming company. They're farming you. Yeah.
yeah, you have to pay, and um
They
there's
make a
always
ton of
new
cash.
games.
They're off, doing things like suppose, yeah. And then you're behind the monitor. What you want to talk about like what working together was like, I guess, like how it went start to finish, what helped you the most, what were the biggest challenges? You just walk us through that process.
So I mean, you broke it down really, really easily, so I can understand it because you're very intelligent, and
Thank you.
you broke it down in a way that was very easy for me to understand. And it's just, I you basically told me like, look, you're an awareness, and now your awareness is controlling a character in a game, and you know, the character in the game, um, it's that's not who you are. That you basically were saying that your identity becomes the person in the game instead
Mhm.
of it's like instead of you working on your identity, now you're working on this fake identity in a
Right.
game, and you're progressing that identity instead of like progressing your identity.
Working on your
And
game character instead of your real life character.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if we were to treat life like a game, right, where you actually like level up in your own life, where you level up, you get new skills, you get new knowledge, and you just like in the game where you work on skills, but instead of working on a fake character, you're working on your character, your real life character.
Yeah.
And that's really where, and then also like where we started talking about masculinity, like how a man is supposed to be, how he's supposed to act.
Sure.
Um, and if you're not like working on these things, it it just you become like this weak man, you know?
A boy trapped in a man's body. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm 31 years old, but I'm still doing things that a boy does, a little boy, when I should be a man and I should be uh, a leader of my family. I should be, um, my family should look up to me, right? So, um, as the older you get, the more you feel it. When I was
Yeah.
in my 20s, I wasn't really going through that. But now that I'm in my 30s and I'm married and I'm having a child, uh, I see all the damage I've done. I see like all the time I've wasted.
Yeah.
And it hurts sometimes, I get negative, and it's hard because, I have to stay positive, and it's difficult sometimes, and I get angry, I get frustrated. But the more I learn, and the more books I read, and um, it's really it's all, you just have to stay positive. You just
Part of the
have
story.
to, yeah, just continue to manifest, and don't like think about the past, don't think about the future too much, just stay in the present. And and that's the key. If you want to like manifest anything in life, you have to be You have to be happy. You cannot be angry. You cannot be negative. You you have to stay positive.
Right.
So
Which is, you t so a lot of gamers seem to harbor a lot of resentment and like anger, jealousy maybe, or just like bottled up negative emotions towards the world, right? Which is a lot of what drives them into games. It's like the world fucked me over, you guys don't understand me, like everything's unfair, what do they have that I don't type of thing. And that kind of brings us back to what you were talking about in the beginning about feeling bullied at work, about feeling, like butting heads, I guess, or just frustrated with how you weren't quite crushing it like your peers. You want to talk about like how we worked through all of those pent up like negative emotions and how you overcame that stuff so you could show up the way you do now to work and to your life?
yeah. So um okay, so for people that are not educated, like they have zero education, um pretty much like every time you hear like something positive about somebody, like let's say someone just like made a lot of money, if you have no education, you're gonna kind of like feel hatred to that person. You're gonna feel jealous. You're gonna have all these negative um emotions because you're not educated. Um, Once you have an education, you no longer feel like that because you know that you can do that too. So, and you just need to take responsibility for yourself and go and do what you need to do. Now, if you feel like jealous of someone or you feel like hate towards someone that's working on themselves and is actually like doing what they're supposed to do, there's something inside you that is, you know, it's you is the problem. It's not that other person. It's you. So it's all about taking responsibility for your own shit and holding yourself accountable. Uh to so I know I see a lot of people like my own friends that have no education. They're still playing games all the time. And every time I uh I talk about an achievement or a goal that I just achieved or some money that I just made, they don't want to hear it. They want to tune it out. And I do it more and more on purpose just to fuck with them because you shouldn't be, you know, you should be happy for other people's success, you
Yeah.
know? So if someone's not happy for your success, you should rub it in their face even more and piss them
Yeah.
off. Instead of, you know, being like, "Oh, I don't want to offend that person because with my success." Fuck them. Offend them. Offend them as hard
Yeah.
as you can
Well,
so they learn.
I think what we saw a lot of too, which goes back to your point that what you see in other people, you resent them for, you hate them for, is kind of just mirroring back to you something that you judge yourself for, right? Because how are you going to judge people that are making more money than you, doing all these things that you say you want to do? If you're judging them for it, then you're kind of judging yourself and you're holding yourself back. Like if you look at, Joe who's making more money doing all this stuff and you're like, man, fuck that guy. You're
Right,
also telling yourself like, I can't do that. That's bad. You know what I mean?
right.
And I think a lot of gamers hold themselves back because they don't realize that in harboring all that negativity towards the world, all that resentment, they're also trapping themselves because now they're saying that's bad. I can't be like that because if I am, I'm like him. Um, when you talk about accountability too, and this also ties back to earlier in the call regarding like actually putting things into practice. How did the accountability component of what we did together help out? Like just staying on top of you and I guess, pushing you through some of the more uncomfortable parts of the growth that maybe you would have turned back from on your own.
Well, I'm lucky because in my office, the guys do hold me accountable there. There is a lot of accountability there. We're always pushing each other to be better. Um, but you know, I've I guess like the accountability, like what it does is it helps me like track my progress, like see, you know, like, so I know that Um, like if I start like going back to like old behaviors, doing things that, I was doing before, that were like holding me back in life, then, I'm like quick to know that like, hey, you need to change that. Like you
Yeah,
shouldn't be doing that right now. Like holding yourself accountable. And sometimes people hold you accountable too, but it's mainly you have to hold yourself accountable of like, you know, what you're supposed to be doing, what you're not supposed to be doing. But like it's just like having an awareness to all this stuff can be overwhelming sometimes. And you want to always constantly be learning new stuff, and all this new stuff that you learn is
mm,
it's kind of can be overwhelming. So you gotta like I don't think you should be just like learning all day. I think
of
that you should
course.
just have a certain time, maybe in the morning to learn. You just do like just a little bit of time, but you should always put time to learn something new. But you don't need to do that the whole day. You still live your life, the way it is. Just the learning um is just going to help you in life. It's not, it's, you don't need to do that all day though. Like you need to live your life.
Yeah,
Um, uh, and there's only a certain amount of brain power you have. So, um, I guess it's just like creating like that perfect routine every day
sure.
so you don't feel like there's something missing in your life because your routine takes care of that.
Hmm.
You don't, it's you're doing the things you're supposed to do. You're getting hydrated, you're getting enough sunlight, you're getting the exercise,
Yeah, you
you're
have a mission.
learning,
You have something pushing you in real life.
you're writing down your goals,
Yeah,
you're visualizing them, and and what's your long-term goals, and how you're going to get there. So that's like once you're like thinking like that, um that changes everything. And before, like when I was playing video games, I wasn't thinking like that at all. Like I wasn't like strategically planning my life, you know,
right.
like I
It was just
wasn't doing none of
happening.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AFK in real life, right?
Yeah. So, once I started to like write more and, meditate, um, basically like just doing all the things that could possibly help you in life, like just try them out and see. Like a lot of people just don't meditate, or they're not
Yeah,
exercising, or they're not, getting enough sunlight or talking to people. Like these are all like simple things
yeah,
that, if you would have just read, a lot of people like are a lot of people like nowadays don't understand that you could just go to YouTube and type in whatever book you want to read and just listen to the summary. And you'll get all the principles, everything you're supposed to know from that book just by reading like listening to a 10-minute summary of that book. And if you want to know what books to read, you could just type in YouTube, oh, what are the best books to read
yeah.
for this? And then it'll tell you those books. And now you just need to watch the summaries.
Right.
Um,
But you got to
and
have
you
that
save all this
attitude in the
time.
first place, right? You got to have that attitude of let's level up in real life and learn and grow and all of that. If you don't have that, it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. If so, another thing that I found really interesting is we caught up recently over the phone, and you were talking to me about how this problem of like vices and people not working on themselves and having destructive habits, whether it's gaming, whether it's adult videos, we're not going to use the words so we don't get shadow banned, but you know what I mean. Like it's actually more rampant than I understood, especially in your space in sales, and sales organizations. Could you talk about that and maybe like myth bust there? Because I guess a lot of people or a lot of dudes that are also in sales gigs, high performance gigs, roles, maybe aren't as aware as you are about like how much they're being held back by all these destructive tendencies and the lack of like work that they're doing on themselves and how much they have to gain from starting that.
Yeah, so for a young man uh that's like trying to get rich in life and is trying to like do the right things and you know, you shouldn't be smoking marijuana. You also shouldn't be watching adult videos um because your sexual energy, that's like your most potent, like that's your strongest type of energy is sexual energy. So if you're constantly wasting that energy, um, that's like a superpower that you have is your sexual energy. Uh, so if you're like constantly using that energy, um, that's why they tell boxers not to like masturbate or whatever before
Right.
like an important fight because that's gonna like take away from their like grit or their power, you know, they're going to be less powerful if they do that. So it's the same thing with your work and your life. You know, if you do things that are like holding you back, you're not going to get like optimal results. You're
Yeah.
not going to get what you're supposed to get in life. You're going to get like a watered down version of that, you know? So,
Right.
you know,
Talk
it,
about I want to hear about like the sales guys specifically and dudes that are in positions like you and like what you see around you essentially. The difference between like the winners and the people that are like stuck or treading water, not making progress, and how that all ties to like video games, for example, maybe being a more common problem among those guys than people understand.
so at least in my office, we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of like cold calling, marketing. We have a lot of inbound stuff too. Uh, we're selling, you know, high ticket stuff, you know, like you know, sometimes we can make, you know, 10, $20,000, $30,000 or more per sale. Um, and you know, a lot of the guys they struggle to find motivation to make phone calls. And I think what a lot of it comes down to is like fear. They don't really believe in themselves. They don't want to sound stupid in front of other people. They want to be the cool guy. Um, and then there's other guys that just they don't give a shit about that. They just they just, you know, uh they just pick up the phone and start calling people and they have like this confidence because just to be able to cold call you know, in front of a group of people and that are judging you and you know could laugh if you sound stupid or stuff. It takes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it takes balls to do that. Um, and a lot of people don't have that. They just don't have that you know that confidence to you know to do like public speaking like that because that's really what it is. It's public speaking.
Right.
So and sound good, you know. So like when you're doing stuff like that, you want like any little thing that's going to give you an edge, you know, like anything that's going to give you an edge that's going to help you like succeed, you know, because um like for me, if I'm calling large companies and I mean companies that are doing 15, 20 million a year, 60 million a year, the owners of those companies, they want to speak to someone that's at their same level, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
they want to speak to someone that's successful, that at least they feel is at the same status as they are. So if you stayed up late the night before, you were playing video games, maybe you were smoking weed, maybe you masturbated, and you didn't get up early, you know, and then now you try to call someone that is doing all that stuff, they're gonna
Yeah.
know right away. They're gonna know that you're not the real deal.
Yeah.
You know, they could feel it. The energy is transferred through the phone, you
Yeah.
know? So that's all sales is. It doesn't even matter what you say. It's the energy you put behind those words.
It's
So
it's a it's about being who you say you are, right?
if you're like full of fear, if you don't feel good that day or you know, you you're just like not feeling confident that day, you're not gonna fucking make money, dude. You're not gonna get shit because it's a transfer of energy. So,
Yeah.
and, you know, and there's also a lot of guys in my office that are fucking negative all the time, that they have this constant negativity.
Yeah.
And every time they talk to someone, they transfer that negativity to their client, and the client doesn't want to buy shit because it's just constant negativity. It's you have to stay positive,
Yeah.
and you have to do the things that you're supposed to do in order to succeed. It's like there's no like in between. Like it's in sales, it's either you do what you're supposed to do and you win, or you lose and you don't get shit. There's no in between. You know,
Hmm.
it's either you make money or you don't make money. S-
This kind of raises the point too of like how I guess with for you it wasn't a lack of sales skills. I mean, obviously there's always a place to learn and grow, you know, with the technical stuff, right? But like the bottleneck was more like the personal development side of stuff, right? Because it doesn't matter how many sales books or courses or seminars you know you learn from if you're still negative, if you still have all those personal problems that are holding you back, right?
Yeah. So like you know, you in order to succeed in business, you have to do what other people are not willing to do. And, you know, there's other people out there that will do what other people won't do. And that's why like basketball players, like Kobe Bryant, for example, he was not the best basketball player. He was just more disciplined and worked harder than everybody else. And that's why he got paid millions of dollars to play basketball, just because he out-disciplined everybody else. And it doesn't really matter like if you're really good at sales or not. What matters is the discipline you have and how much discipline are you willing to have, um, and hard work. And that will beat talent any day. You know, it doesn't matter if you have someone that's talented next to you, but they don't want to work hard. You know, they have zero discipline, but they're talented.
Yeah.
You know, if it doesn't matter. What matters is discipline and hard work,
Yeah.
and and that will go way farther than
Right.
just someone that's talented. And that's one thing I've learned in sales. Um, you know, because we compete all the time with each other, and it's a huge competitive place, you know, just like in sports.
Hmm.
And the guys that constantly win are the ones that are more disciplined and are working harder.
Right.
That, you know, everybody's talented in our office, but it's just the guys that are always number one, the ones that are always making more money. It's because of that. You know, they're willing
Yeah.
to do things that other people just won't do. And that's like waking up at 5 a.m.,
Right.
studying.
And if you're talented, but you're just constantly fighting against yourself, you have all these demons that you haven't conquered, right? I mean, how are you going to tap into that talent?
Exactly. So, you know, you just you have to figure out what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and then just start working on your weaknesses,
Yeah.
and uh, and just make them into strengths. And you know, me, I have a lot more weaknesses than I have strengths, you know. Um, so I'm working on those, and I'm trying to, you know, get those into strengths. And like the other day, I took some before and after pictures of my body, and you know how I'm looking now and how I want to look in the future. And you know, I'm just going to look back at those
Hmm.
pictures, you know, and when I finally achieve it, I'm gonna
Yeah.
look back at those pictures, it's gonna feel really good, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, same thing with golf. Like golf is ridiculously hard. Um, and you know, right now I suck at golf, you know, and little by little, I've been working hard at it, and I get better, like a little bit every time I practice, you know, and that's really taught me like a lot. You know, it's all about those repetitions and staying positive and
Yeah.
and just knowing like like you suck right now. You're a fucking scrub.
You're
Like,
level
but
one,
this is
bro.
this is what you got to do
Yeah.
to get good. This is what you got to do to become the shit. But if you're fucking playing games all day, working on this fake character, you're still gonna be a scrub in real life,
Right.
you
And
know?
I think a lot of gamers can't like stomach that and the delayed gratification. The way I think about it is staying in like the starter zone forever. Like we played WoW, so it would be like you're in Elwyn Forest for 30 years, like still killing fucking boars and wolves and like not really, actually seeing what you haven't even started the actual game. You know what I mean? Because the game starts at level 60. And I wanted to ask you about how is this stuff the stuff that we did together now that like we don't work together directly every week like we used to or whatever, but how is it still helping you? How are you still like are you still able to use the stuff that we kind of put into motion, the tools, the ways of thinking, all of that? Has it continued to kind of like pay off into the future after the work?
Well, yeah, it's basically what started everything. Like what started um, what got me to change my way of thinking was initially working with you. And then, it sparked like this whole like, now I want to work on myself and I want to continue working on myself. And there is no end, to working on yourself. It's a whole lifetime
Yeah.
uh thing, it's not just now you know everything and now you're good. No, it doesn't work like that. There's constantly things you have to do. Um
Which is the fun
and
part because the game just keeps going.
yeah, and there's probably a lot of people just like me, that they didn't finish school or whatever, or they did finish school. Um like I didn't finish school and I didn't grow up with any religion either. So, my father was really into sports and he's extremely competitive and that's like the knowledge that I had was, someone like that, but there was a lot of knowledge I was lacking about like how to treat people correctly, like, work like my father wanted me to get an education since day one. He did everything possible for me to get an education, but I just was extremely rebellious and I didn't listen to him and I just said pretty much fuck you, dad. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And I didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
Uh, Um, and that caused me to struggle big time in life. So it's like getting an education is so important. It's so important and
And you don't just
it's
mean going to school too, though. You mean like just educating yourself, being about like learning, right? And working on yourself.
yeah, like whether you learn it in school or you learn it on your own, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you get yourself educated where now you're working on yourself instead of, hating on other people all the time
Yeah.
and being a fucking hater, because that's really like like in like so all right, so when people don't have education and like let's say like in a poor neighborhood. Like most people there are lack education. They lack the tools to earn the money that they need to. Like they have or like there's education missing there. Okay. So what happens is, they're constantly competing against each other. They constantly try to pull each other down and because they don't want each other to succeed. They don't want someone to be, you know, uh, better than they are. It's like crabs in a bucket. So, in a lot of like poor neighborhoods, that's the reality is, every time someone makes it, everybody hates on them, and does not wish them good. And the reason for that is because of lack of education. If, you know, if those people would just work on themselves and do, you know, and know that they could do it too. It's not that, oh, because God chose him, or, you know, he's blessed more than I am, or, you
Yeah.
know, what did I do to God to deserve this? It's
It's getting
all
out of the
these,
victim mindset.
yeah. And the whole victim mindset is just a cause of someone that's not educated. And I don't think I've ever seen someone that's educated have a victim mindset,
Hmm.
you know, because like they know better, you know? So like if you're constantly like blaming other people, this and that, that's like a key indicator that you have like you're like dumb. You know, I think that's what the the definition of not having knowledge or lacking knowledge is. You're dumb.
Wisdom. Yeah.
You're dumb, you're stupid. So, I mean, it's harsh way of saying it, but it's true. You know, I was dumb, I was stupid. I didn't want to fucking feel dumb. I didn't want to feel stupid all the time. So I started working on myself, you know, but then I see people that are still going through that. And it's, you know, all I do, all I could do is just treat them bad and treat them bad until they feel enough
Hmm.
pain to change
Well,
themselves.
just, not hold your ground, I suppose, and remind them that blaming everyone else is not gonna do anything, right?
It's just the default
Yeah.
of humans is to always go like that. But if you knew better, if you had an education, you wouldn't
Yeah.
be thinking like that.
Which kind of brings me to the next of like the last questions I'll some of the last questions I'll ask you, but when why do you think a lot of, I mean, we kind of already addressed this, why a lot of dudes stay stuck in this cycle? A lot of, I guess the emotional addiction to being a victim is a huge one, like we were just talking about, of like the emotional high of feeling like someone did you dirty and you can like, be like, oh yeah, they wronged me, like they fucked me over. But especially in your specific personal case, like how come you didn't why do you think you didn't start solving this problem, the gaming and all that for yourself before our work together? Like, had you tried something before? Had you started and stopped? And like, what is it about the work that we did that was finally able, after 30 years, to actually like put this to bed and get you somewhere else?
Well, um, so one thing that's helped me in life is I've always, you know, my father always told me don't be a follower, be a leader. So I've always wanted to be a leader in life. I've never wanted to follow someone else. So that has held me back in life a lot because I don't listen to nobody, right? So it's being like hard-headed. Now, now when people get into a group, when there's a group of people together, they basically they start thinking alike now. So they become like a collective mind. Um, Me, I've never been part of a group. I've always been a my own thinker. You know, I've never wanted to be part of a group. I've always felt groups are bad. They have good things too, you know. But you know, I see that people that are in groups all the time, they're constantly just they don't have their own thoughts. Like mo mainly, um, it's, you know, they all think alike on the same thing. You know, it's all like um, so like when you're constantly around your peers and you're hanging out with your peers, you're more likely to do whatever they're doing. And all the bad behaviors that they do, now you will do. So I guess to answer your question, like why it's taken me so long to actually like start working on myself, it's probably because of hanging around my peers all day, hanging around people that's what they're doing. You know, they're playing video games, they're not working on themselves. And you know, my dad didn't want this for me. He wanted me to to be around people that were going to be a good influence in my life, people that are actually going somewhere in life. Um, and when you're basically your peers is everything. Like who you hang around with is who you become, you know? So
100%.
so if you're hanging around with a group of guys that plays World of Warcraft all day, what are you gonna do? You're probably gonna play World of Warcraft all day. And you're not gonna think anything bad about it because that's what your friends are doing, that's what your peers are doing. So um yeah, so like, I've seen that, I think that's the main reason is just because of the whole friend aspect, hanging around people that are like not doing anything with their lives, and then once I started like working with people that have like purpose in their life and they're going places in life, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to, because I didn't want to feel left out,
Yeah.
I wanted to be on their same level, because of this whole hierarchy thing. So like if you're around people that are like working out and you're not working out, you're gonna feel left out. You're gonna feel like I should work out,
Hmm.
or so it's all about like who you hang out with, if but it's just hard to tell people like, oh, you need to stop talking to all your friends because they're losers
Yeah,
and find new friends,
that's a
because
tough one.
that's the tough one. So,
But it's the most
um,
important one too.
yeah, 100%, so it's you need to like create like your little wolf pack. You need to create like people that are like-minded, because when you're around people that are not like-minded, they just constantly drag you back to these behaviors that you're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And if you know, are trying to work on yourself and they're not, then they like will like laugh at you and, tell you like, oh, that's stupid. And then now you don't even
Yeah.
want to do it anymore.
It's virtually
That,
impossible, like with that influence.
yeah. And that's why people say like, oh, you're not supposed to tell people about your plans until it's already done, because you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe that you know the right answer. You don't need to go ask for a second opinion from someone and be like, oh, do you think this is a good idea? Or just even by telling them about it, you're inviting them to have an opinion on your situation. And you're not supposed to play with your goals and your dreams. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to keep that as a secret and just do it and not tell anybody about it. Um, because if with people's hate and jealousy or whatever, it could it could, they could get you to change your mind and be like, oh yeah, you know what, that was a stupid idea. And maybe it was a good idea if you would have just tried it. And a lot of people are just fear of failure. Like they don't want to fail.
Which
So
is impossible if you're gonna do literally anything.
you have to fail. So most people will go on YouTube and try to learn the perfect way of doing something, or
Yeah.
and watch hours and hours of videos and then go and ask their peers and this and that. And then by by the time that you they've already done all this research and now they have to go actually put in action, they don't put in the action
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, you know,
And
because of all
they're
this
trying to,
knowledge.
yeah, they're trying to cheat their way out of actually doing this, like playing life, because you can't learn your way out of having to fail. Like it's inevitable, right? It's gonna be painful.
That's one thing I've learned, with all this learning and trying to get better is you have to fail. You have to fail. Like you have to like just whatever it is you're trying to do, just do it. And the faster you fail, the better, because now you know what to work on, and you
Right.
know what you need to do. Um, You don't want to go into this whole analysis paralysis thing where you start thinking about something so much um,
Hmm.
that now you don't do any action. You know, you have to put in the action. You have to fail um, to get better at something, anything.
Do you feel like that's something that our work together put a lot of emphasis on? Like not just, hey, this is a cool idea, now you know it, but like go take this idea, apply it like in the office, and then come back to me and tell me how it went, and then let's do it again. Right? Like, do you feel like that's how that's accurate?
Yeah, because like when you drive a car, um, you're not thinking about like how good you're driving.
Yeah.
You're just driving the car and the car drives good. Like that's how you have to live your life. You have to like have like these principles that you learned from reading and doing all these things, and then those principles will help guide you in life. But if you don't have those basic principles that you learn from reading and studying, you're going through life like blind. Like
Yeah.
you don't know how to rate. You won't make the right decisions when you need to make the right decisions at the right time. So uh you know, and there's books out there that like millions and millions of people have read, and it's like already common knowledge. It's been out there for a long time, you know. So um and you know, so you should have that knowledge too, you know.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, you know. It's but when you know, just but once you have the knowledge, you have to trust in yourself. Like, all right, I'm very knowledgeable. It's you can't go around thinking like, oh, I don't know shit, like self-doubt. Like you have to, you know, um, you have to believe in yourself.
You have
You
to
know,
have
that's
courage, like you said earlier.
yeah. And a lot of people out there are going through that where they just feel that they don't have enough knowledge to make certain decisions, so they have to go and ask a therapist, or they have to go ask,
Mhm.
you know, a peer or someone else. And when they have the right answer. They know what the right answer is, but
Yeah.
they just don't believe in themselves.
Right. You
And it
can't buy
happens to
that.
me.
Yeah, you have to build it in the fire, right? Like there's no shortcut for believing in yourself and building courage and actually doing the thing.
Like,
Gotta find.
you know why like professional basketball players, golfer, like championship golfers, why they have so much confidence is because they've won many times. They
Mm-hmm.
win and they win and they win. And through winning, they've gotten confidence, you know? Like
100%.
I'm sure that like, you know, they've had to do a lot of like research and knowledge and all that stuff,
Yeah,
but what gave them the confidence wasn't the research.
you're
What gave
right.
them the confidence was winning.
Right.
And
And winning, no, go ahead.
and just having like feeling good about how they performed.
Hmm.
You know, that's the main thing is, you know, if you feel good about how you're performing and whatever it is, and you know, and you win at something, that's gonna make you feel good. But you know,
Winning
um,
doesn't mean also like becoming a millionaire overnight or something. It just means doing better than you did yesterday, right? Like getting, some kind of progress, some improvement relative to your situation. Yeah.
yeah, you won at something, you know, you don't always feel like a loser. You won, you know, so it's it's very important to, you know, to get those. And then when you win, you celebrate the win. You know, it's
Mhm.
not just, oh, it was just a little win, you know, and you just disregard it. No, you fucking celebrate that shit. And you know, you reward yourself after you win. But if you didn't win, you shouldn't be rewarding yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's the main point of all this is go out there, become a winner, and you know, stop doing things that are holding you back in life, you know,
Hmm.
like video games and all this other stuff. So, um, that's what builds confidence. You
Right.
know, that's what makes people happy is actually, you know, achieving stuff and
Right.
you know,
Wherever
being
they're
part of
at.
that hierarchy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a billionaire is is, those people, the reason why they're billionaires is because they made more money than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're a billionaire. And that's why people look at it as it's such a hard thing to do. But you don't think those people feel good after they achieved it?
Mm.
Like they feel amazing because they achieved their dreams, they achieved their goals,
Yeah.
and they became a billionaire, you know? And it's harder. They did what other people weren't willing to do. They, you know, they, that's anything that's easy in life is not valuable. It has to be hard. It has to be
Hmm.
difficult, and when most people give up, you have to stay, you have to keep going. That's what every champion in sports, that's the difference between a champion and a person that's not a
Right.
champion, is the whole mindset of that winning mindset and not giving up,
Hmm.
you know,
So
so
no, go ahead.
just a lot of people, they give up, they quit,
Or they don't
and
start.
they don't start and want to just play video games and
Yeah.
just, not go through any pain. And
And then they're
so
like, why does my life suck?
why does my life suck? Because
You're
you've
not
chose
living.
that path.
Yeah.
You chose this.
Why don't you wrap up by just, what would you say to someone who's kind of in the situation that you were in of when we started working together, who's maybe considering main character men, who maybe has a background similar to yours? What advice or what would you tell them?
I think that anybody that's considering, like, if you like, I know a lot of people want to get off of video games, but they just don't know how. They don't know like why they're doing it. They don't know how to get off of it. They just know it's something bad though. They know that it's like holding them back in life, but they just can't
Yeah.
stop doing it for some reason. Um, if they do your program, they're gonna understand exactly like how it's affecting their life and what can they do to stop doing it. Like you will outline it exactly perfectly so anybody can understand it. Um, because there's just not a lot of like programs out there that are teaching that stuff,
Hmm.
that are teaching people to stop playing video games and start working on themselves. There's not most other um, most other things that they teach people is kind of like enables them to keep doing what they're doing and not like feel bad about it and be like,
Yeah.
oh, you're fine, everything is great. And it's
It's
because
not your
that's the way,
fault.
yeah, that's the way our society is set up. Like our society does not want you to be rich. They don't want you to be a champion. They want you to be an average motherfucker that just goes to work every day and that's it. That's what society wants you to be. You have to understand that. They don't want you to be the shit. They don't want you to have that fuck you money that you could do whatever you want. They don't want that because then I don't know. I don't know, but that's just the way the world is set up, and if you can understand that, and 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 a lot of the ideas that you have are not even your ideas. Like they were put in your head
Yeah.
by some marketing that somebody was doing because they wanted to get rich and they understand how shit works and you don't. And most of the ideas that we have are from someone else. They're
Hmm.
put inside our head through our society and marketing. Um, and once you can understand that, like you can start to free your mind and not become a slave anymore because a lot of people are just slaves to their life. And
Right. Well, they're like NPCs in the game, right? They're not actually playing.
yeah, you just this whole slave mentality of, you know, it's you know, I I don't want to be a fucking slave. I want to be I want to be free and do whatever the hell I want, have financial freedom, um, to do whatever I want in life. I don't want
Yeah.
to be like held back because like I don't have enough money. Uh, I want to be able to choose where I want my daughter to go to school. I don't want her to go to a bad school or
That's the
something like
best
that.
motivation too, is your family and your kids.
Yeah, like a lot of people say like, "Oh, why do you need a lot of money?" Um, well, when you start to have children and you start to create a family, money is very important,
Hmm.
and I guess for some people that don't have a family, they still haven't started their family, money's not very important to them. Um, but to people that want to have a family, that want to do the right thing in life, it's very important. And, being able to choose what neighborhood that I want to live in, where my daughter will go to school, because that's going to change the trajectory of her life and where she's going to go in life. And I don't, not being like a deadbeat dad, you know, that
Amen.
doesn't that doesn't, like take care of their children. There's people that tell me, "Oh, why are you so always worried about money? You need to be more present for your family." It'd be like, that's me being present for my family, is me making sure that they have the things they're supposed to have, that they have the money. That's me being a good father. Is a lot of people don't understand that. And, you know, because they maybe didn't have that from their father, but
Yeah.
being a good father means being a good provider for your family.
Hmm.
That's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean that, like, and also being able to defend them, so they feel secure. But the main thing is that financial security. Like, if you can't provide that for your family, then you're not really a good father. Like, I'd rather
Hmm.
have the father that's, you know, takes care of everything financially, but maybe he's not always there because he's working, but at least like everything is taken care
Well,
of, you
yeah, or
know?
at least gets his life into a position where he can be more there, or at the very least, maybe he does work a lot, but when he is with the family, he's there. His mind isn't on video games or work. You know what I mean? Like it's all
Yeah,
intentional. It's all conscious. It's not come home and kind of just like fucking scroll your phone while the kids try to get your attention type of thing, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but yeah, so um like trust me, like nowadays, like with all the knowledge that there is in the world, like you don't really have to work really hard to make money. You just have to work smart. Um and do things that, find that task that will make you the money. That's the
Right.
main thing. Is a lot of people do all these other things that are not really the one that moves the needle. It's
Hmm.
finding that one or couple things that you could do in your business that really move the needle and really produce results. And that's mainly what a lot of people waste a lot of time trying to find. And once they find it, though, that's when they start making the money. So, um, but you could make lots of money and still have time for your family. Is there's you could design your life the way you want it to be, and what's important to you. So just because someone makes a lot of money doesn't mean that they're not there for their family,
Right.
that they don't have time for the family. You could do both. There's
Yeah.
no reason why you can't.
Just a matter of what
Uh,
matters. It's about what matters to you more, right? Like pick one, I suppose. Or pick what matters. Money, gaming, family, etc.
yeah, once you have financial freedom, you'll have time and you know, you'll be able to have
Yeah.
as much time as you want. But if you're constantly working, being a slave to the system, that's when you don't have time, because you're still a slave. But
Yeah.
if you can become rich, have financial freedom, now you have all the time in the world,
Yeah.
and
It's
That's
not
where,
now it's like you're actually playing the game. You're not like chained to a zone.
yeah.
What any last words, any last message, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Said a lot already. I mean, um,
If not, that's
you know,
cool.
no, it just like if you're not happy with your current situation, and you feel like always depressed all the time, you feel sad, you know, it's probably because you're not working on yourself and you're not doing the things you're supposed to do in life, and you're um you're probably playing video games all the time, and because people in ancient times, they didn't have these problems,
Yeah.
because they were so wrapped up into their life. They weren't in their head all the time. They
Hmm.
were constantly doing action, 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 action. So they didn't have these problems. So the reason we have these problems and our generation has is because of technology, and technology is bad if you use it too much.
Hmm.
So um so it's kind of like just going back to what people in ancient times used to do, and
Yeah.
just learning from them, and there's a reason why they were doing stuff like that. Um so that's really what the program is all about, is going back to um and doing stuff that what people, before technology,
Right.
what they were doing, to be happy
The
and to live a
fundamental
fulfilled life.
principles of like human excellence. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that knowledge has been there for thousands and thousands of years. Um, so yeah, that's mainly what the program will teach you is how to get your shit together. Um, because if your shit was together, you wouldn't be having these problems. Like,
Yeah.
let's be real. Like, if you were doing everything you were supposed to, you shouldn't be feeling depression. You shouldn't be feeling uh all these negative emotions. You should be feeling good emotions, positive emotions. So if you're being like fulfilled in your life, most people are just not living their life to their potential, and that's why they feel like that.
Right. Which is not a it's not a problem. Like the feeling isn't a problem. The feeling is there for a reason, right? It's your body, it's yourself being sounding the alarm and being like, yo, something's got to change,
Exactly.
And a lot of
Exactly.
people go the opposite direction. They have that feeling and they're told, no, it's okay. Nothing's wrong with you. Here, take this pill, forget about it, play the video game.
Yeah, just that's your mental health or this and that, but
Yeah,
those are uh, those are all like side effects of, like, you need to go and find what the root cause of all those problems are. And that's what your program will help do, is find what is the root cause of all these emotions that you're going through and fix that root cause. And a lot of people have many different problems, but you got to go to the root of it, and sometimes you need to speak to someone else so they can ask you certain questions, and you know so you can it's sometimes it's hard to figure that out on your own. You need like a second opinion.
totally.
You need someone that has experience in that to just to get like a second opinion on things, because
Hmm.
you you might think, oh, I know everything, but there's other people out there that know more than you. So,
Right.
um, so you just have to like humble yourself and know that you don't know everything, and there's still, knowledge out there that you need to learn. So, um, I think that like most people, like for example, people that are overweight, the only reason that they feel a motivation to go to the gym is because there's a pain in their life. And when the pain is so, it's like so like there's so much pain that they're going through, they can't take it no more. That's when they go to the gym.
Right.
So
But if
like
you numb
pain,
that pain, then nothing changes, right?
yeah. So it's how much can you deal with the pain? Like how how much can you bear the pain until you want to do something about it?
Right.
Or just do something about it so you don't have to go through the pain, you know? So, but you know, that's how humans are, man. It's just we only changes like we hate change. So we'd rather change only if we're forced to change
Right.
instead of being proactive about it and being like, oh, I should change because this is gonna happen. But we just, you know, hit our head against the wall and then, oh, okay, I want to change now. That's just how it works. So if there's people going through pain, you know, eventually the pain, they can't take it anymore and they're like, you know, screw this. I need to do something about this, you know. So,
Exactly. Well, dude, this was a super insightful, awesome conversation. Thanks so much for making the time for it. It was awesome reconnecting and catching up and hearing about how well things are going. And I'm excited to stay tuned as well and see what the next chapter is, catch up again like down the road and see how things are evolving.
yeah, yeah, no, I really appreciate you, you know, helping me and and teaching me all this stuff. You know, you didn't have to do that. Um, and I'm really, you know, I'm really appreciative of that. You know, it's really helped me a lot in life. And, you know, I'm still working on myself. Um, and yeah, dude, like, you know, thank you. Thank you big time. You know, you're the man for real.
Oh man.
Um, you know, not a lot of people would have taken the time, you know, to work with me on this and I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. I'm super glad I did. It's totally worth it. And I love seeing how well things are going. So awesome. I'll talk to you soon then.
All
Peace.
right. All right,
Yep.
Christian. Peace out.